Yeah, I love Dave Ramsey. I know people love to shit on Dave Ramsey, but he gets a lot of love too, right? But he also gets a lot of hate. And here's the thing, right? Like almost no one, yourself included, myself included, we're not going to agree with any one person 100%. But he's helped probably more than 99% of all personal finance folks in the whole world. That's hyperbole, but combined, like he's been doing this for like 30 years. He's got a method of, he's got his baby steps, which
Welcome everybody back to another exciting show of the About That Wallet podcast, where we are helping you build strong financial behaviors. And today's guest is Hanna, and he is such, as you could say, an awesome jiu-jitsu guy. Love counting cards, played lots of blackjack, and he's actually going to dive into his story. And I really want to hope y'all have found something that will be beneficial to you and your lifestyle as we go through this particular episode. So how are you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great, Anthony. It's great to meet you and great to talk to you.
Nice. So I know I possibly did a horrible job introducing you. So if you can do a better job than I did.
I don't know if I can, but I'll give it a try. So, like you said, I out of college, I had an opportunity to take a job on Wall Street or go play blackjack because I had been counting cards for the prior 6 months leading up to graduation, and not just counting cards, but learning how to manage a bankroll, learning how to calculate the numbers, and sort of everything that you need to do to play blackjack professionally. And when I had the opportunity to do something different in blackjack, and so that's what I did. Went off with my college roommate, and we started playing on all the casinos across the East Coast. We went to Vegas, stayed there for a month, logged over 200 sessions there in the month. Wow. And over time, I ended up picking up a bunch of different gig jobs, was teaching, tutoring, babysitting, a whole bunch of different things just to sort of continue pursuing entrepreneurship and avoid a regular job. I knew that you could make money in more creative ways, and I was just trying to figure out how. And a little while after that, I got involved with the financial literacy organization, actually based out of the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, teaching kids financial literacy in after-school classes. I did that for a while and eventually decided that I wanted to work more with adults one-on-one through financial coaching. And so that's what I'm doing now. I help UFC fighters and entrepreneurs manage their money to have more peace of mind, spend more time doing what they love, and build wealth with confidence.
Nice. Now, you actually sound like the rest of us all trying to figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
Did you actually ever figure it out?
Time will tell, but right now I am really happy. And I hate to use that word happy because happiness is sort of fleeting, and I don't want to get down sort of a philosophical path unless you want to, Anthony, but I am much more fulfilled with what I'm doing because I get to work with people and I get to talk about stuff that I love talking about. Like I love managing my own money and learning about this stuff. And so to help someone else out and to see their progress is amazing. It's actually really fulfilling. And the fact that I can do it remotely and sort of base it around my time, I'd say that I don't know if I've figured it out, but I'm in a much better place now than I was a while back.
So what was it that kind of kept you going? Because in your story, you just kind of mentioned like, hey, life was just happening and I'm doing my thing. But what was it that kept you going?
Freedom. And in many ways, this is maybe contradictory, but almost not having a choice. Like, I know that sounds weird, but I just felt like it would have been soul crushing to take a job. I mean, I had worked regular jobs I was a soccer referee when I was 12 years old. And from that time until I started playing blackjack, I was doing traditional jobs. Worked at Banana Republic as a sales associate. I was working at my college's tech services department. So I had taken regular jobs, but there was, by the time that I finally had an opportunity to almost like make my first real decision on my own in life, out of school, out of college, freedom was the single most significant driver that led me to do every single thing that I did. And so anytime that things weren't really working out, I just didn't really feel like I had I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I didn't feel like I could take a regular job, despite the fact that I had a degree and probably I could have gotten one. I mean, I'd been offered a job, but just knowing that it was possible. Les Brown was a huge motivator for me back in the day, even still now, but he's like, I do not believe that any of us have dreams that were not given to us for the purpose of accomplishing those particular dreams. Right. And so that kind of thing stuck with me. And I just said, no matter what, it's not over until I win. And that's kind of what pushed me through.
Nice. That actually might be the title of the show.
Hey, a tribute to Les Brown. I would love to. He's amazing. Yeah. He changed my life. He did. He really did.
Talk about this blackjack situation, because a lot of people, we go to gamble, but we just kind of like, all right, well, I only got like $10. Let me just try this out. And you get that high and that feeling of it. And then how do you like not lose yourself in that high? I guess it's like a two-part question.
Yeah. So the first thing to recognize is that there is a difference between gambling and investing. The line is often very blurred because the biggest mistake a lot of people make is that they think that the sort of paradigm between investing and gambling is determined by the thing that you're buying and selling, or the money that you're, quote, betting. When in reality, it comes down to the knowledge that you have about the thing that you are buying or selling, as well as the knowledge that you have about your own personal circumstances, as well as proper bankroll management. And so I say that all, I preface it with that because I wasn't gambling. My blackjack partner and I were investing. There was one correct play for every possible hand. There was one correct amount to bet for every possible count. And so there was not the same sort of gambler's high. In reality, there wasn't really a gambler's high, because as we won and lost, it was just part of the game. It was almost like, if you look at the stock market, it trends up. There's all that volatility, but over the long term, it trends upwards. And so that's what was happening with blackjack. It was a little tough to stomach at first, like the wins and the losses, to stomach swings of hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars in a single day. Right. It was tough to stomach at first, but eventually we're just like, you know what, this is just part of the game. We've got to get our hands in, and eventually we're going to trend upwards. That I suppose that's how I looked at it.
That is interesting, because I also think about, because I play Baccarat, and that's kind of my game of choice.
Okay, cool.
Because it's just a flip of a coin for me. And I always like how the energy around Baccarat, even though nobody has no say on how the cards are played. It's just like, and that's
same with craps.
I love it. Yeah, craps. You have no. But the only thing about the two, like the only reason why I gravitated towards Baccarat was because there was nobody else's hands in the pot. There was nobody else's. It was completely hands off. You're just watching and let the dealer do this thing. Versus with blackjack, that's the reason why I stopped playing it, was because sometimes you have to take the loss for everybody else to win, and I don't want that. But, that's fine. That's what people say, right? Okay, and it's so funny because it's just a superstition, right? When people say, "Oh, you shouldn't have hit that," you should have played by the book, because if you didn't hit that, the dealer would have bust, or vice versa. If you had taken that card, then the dealer would have bust, or whatever it might have been. But in reality, the chance of that card being what it was just as likely to be the card that you didn't want as it was to be the card that you did want. So this whole it affects everybody else is really not true. It's random. Okay. It's completely random. Yeah. Out of 6, because they usually use 6 decks to mix the cards.
6 decks is pretty common. Yeah.
So it's sad that I played this much to know that.
No, it's all good. No, it's a fun game. I mean, it's I've talked about this before, that like gambling is not inherently bad, at least not in my opinion, but it's a vice. It can be fun. It's like alcohol. You overindulge and you're going to have some problems, but if you have a little fun, I know people that love a whole bunch of different wines, or people that love bourbon, and so, explore, have some fun with it. But, it can be an all right thing.
Okay. So since we're talking about these highs and lows and energies and flows, what is it that we can start thinking about as far as our habits around finances, just to kind of keep us grounded?
Yeah. So I'll say this. People, when they finally decide that, no, let me back it up. Oftentimes people get really frustrated because they don't know where their money's gone, or they don't know how to start investing, and or they just have an anxious sort of feeling or a guilty feeling surrounding their spending, either anxious before or guilty afterwards, or both. And a lot of that boils down to a lack of a mindset and a few habits, just a few. So mindset wise, it's helpful to think about managing money in terms of using your money in the most effective way possible to live the life of your dreams in whichever way that impacts you, your family, friends, and even strangers around the world. So if we think about managing money in that way as a goal, the habits thereafter look like this. So habit 1, decide what to do with your money. Every time you receive money, and before you ever spend a single dime of it, you have the opportunity to decide exactly what to do with your money. Ramit Sethi calls this a conscious spending plan in so many words. Other people call it intentional spending. Some people call it a budget. For me, I think about it as when that money hits, and before I ever spend a dime of it, I have an opportunity to decide exactly what to do with it. Habit number 2 is ensure that you stick to your decisions. One of the easiest ways to do that is to put the money that you've decided what to do with into separate either cash envelopes or separate bank accounts. I prefer separate bank accounts because we're just moving towards a cashless society. You know, even if it's not purely cashless, like you get paid via direct deposit, you buy, almost everything online. You pay for your gas with a debit card. Like all this stuff is you're not using cash unless you're actively trying to. And that would have been a problem prior to the advent of these online banks. So Ally Bank is fully online, and you can open up as many checking and savings accounts as you want with no minimum balances or hidden fees. And so because of that, you might as well have 2 or 3 separate checking accounts so that when the money comes in, you can put it into separate accounts and only use each account for its intended purpose. When you do that, you ensure that you stick to the decision that you made. So that would be habit number 2. And habit number 3 would be to track your money and in this way, your decisions in an efficient and organized way. The easiest way, in my opinion, to do that is when you are deciding what to do with your money, write out those distributions into those different accounts, write it out on a sheet of paper or on a spreadsheet on something that I call a cash flow tracker. I just recently put one up on my website for free, so you can download it, and you can also just create your own if you want. But the reality of it is that if you use this to decide what to do with your money, if you then transfer the money into each account and only use each account for its intended purpose, you've now decided what to do with it, ensured that you stick to your decisions, and you've now tracked your money. You've got a log here of what you've done with your money in an organized and efficient way.
Yeah, I love it. I love all 3 of them because that's one of the reasons why I came up with the Simple Budget Calendar. You can actually get yours for $1 every time you purchase something off the website. You track all of your finances. Now, one of the things I did like that you mentioned for habit number 2, which was about having multiple accounts. I know we're not sponsored by Ally, but
that's right.
Just look at your personal bank account for whatever bank that you bank with. Most of the time they will open up that account, even if it's just to put $25 over there, just to show like, hey, yes, I do want to have this account open. And then just label each account that particular name. So like have one as the car loan, another one could be for the mortgage, the other one could be for savings. And I've heard that some people actually have about 15 different bank accounts just to kind of maintain their lifestyle. Yeah,
so that is where I start to disagree because, well, it depends. Like if there's only a few, if there's only a few spending accounts and the rest are savings accounts, then that's like fine. I don't really have anything to say about that. Where I disagree is when people teach a cash envelope system that includes like 15 different categories. Yeah, and the problem with that is that if you design your money management system in a way that's too complicated to stick to it, then you're not going to stick to it. And so what I like to do is create an initial budget that sort of outlines like all of your expenses. And we can dive into that if you want. Your expenses, what you're saving for, what you're investing for, all of that stuff. But then filter it in to smaller categories to a point where I recommend that people have 3 primary checking accounts. One for all of your fixed and recurring expenses. Yep. That is for your bills, your rent, insurance, even debt payments. Just have everything that automatically comes out every month come out of that account. The next one is your fun account, or call it your wants. And that is for all of your non-recurring wants. So like even Netflix and Spotify and all that, throw that into your recurring, make it come out of your recurring account, because it's making sure that in the middle of the month, you're not looking at your account and be like, wow, where did my money go? So that's why I recommend people keep everything in that comes out automatically in a fixed recurring account. Then you've got wants, and then you've got needs, which again, it's your general sort of non-recurring needs. I call it my cushion account because it's what sort of keeps my budget or my money management system on track. So it's for gas and, when I want to buy a toothbrush or, a new pair of shoes that I need, it comes out of that account, and I don't have to budget every single line item of that, of my needs for that.
The next question: does Dave Ramsey $1,000 savings still work today?
Yeah, I love Dave Ramsey. I know people love to shit on Dave Ramsey, but he gets a lot of love too, right? But he also gets a lot of hate. And here's the thing, right? Like almost no one, yourself included, myself included, we're not going to agree with any one person 100%. Yep. But he's helped probably more than 99% of all personal finance folks in the whole world. That's hyperbole, but right. Combined, like he's been doing this for like 30 years. He's got a method of, he's got his baby steps, which they work. I mean, he was one of my first introductions into personal finance. Do you have to follow everything to a T? No. If you want a 12-month emergency fund, put a 12-month emergency fund together. It doesn't have to be 3 to 6 months, but his basic premise is, create an emergency fund so that when an unexpected expense comes up, you don't have to put yourself into more debt, pay off all that debt that's just costing you money.
And then baby step 2. Yep.
Yeah. Fully fund your emergency fund and then start investing in so many ways. He's got for the college and this and that, but yeah, I like Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. I was just saying like the basic, like after step 3, I'm like, everything else is out the window. Like, I understand it's like 7 steps, but I'm like, the first 1,000, yes, it's good to see it. All right, cool. Yeah. Now, can you bump that up a little bit more? With
inflation now, he might have to rewrite that book, because I heard I was talking to someone the other day. They said a figure. This is just a couple of days ago. They said that the inflation figure for this whole year came out and it was 9%.
Yeah.
Now I haven't verified that myself, but if that's true and that's the case, that's incredible. In which case,
I heard 7%. So if you heard
either way, right? Like 9%, 7%, 9%. That's wild. That's really wild.
Typically it's like 2%, right? Typically.
Yeah, like 1 to 2%. Yeah. So you might need to bump that up, because I don't know when that book initially came out, but I can imagine that you probably need a $1,500 or a $2,000 emergency fund to get started with.
Yeah. But like I said, if you just keep the baseline out of there, I think it would actually suit a lot more people. But I think what it is just the mindset shift for a lot of people when it comes to building those strong habits of just seeing the money there. So it goes back to what you're saying, is just having that savings. If you can build that savings pot up inside your checking account with the multiple checking accounts, even if you just get it up to 1,000, just for your first time ever seeing it, or even if it's your first time ever seeing 10,000, then just put 10,000 over there.
Yeah. Most people, I think Grant Cardone said one time that like most people will never have the discipline to see $100,000 in a single bank account. Like you might have well over, and maybe that's not the best thing. Maybe you shouldn't have $100,000 in a bank account because it's just losing value, Yep. But like, it's just, if you want to go and purchase something and you don't want to borrow money to do it, you're going to have to stash some money into some sort of account. In any event though, most people probably will never see large sums of money, and until they do, and in which case it can change your whole life. See something like that.
Yeah. So while we're talking about your savings and so forth, so this goes into investing in yourself. So one actually go about that in your eyes?
Yeah, this phrase, investing in yourself, used to sort of confuse me. Like, what did that really mean? And maybe I don't have the perfect definition now, but I look at it this way. You can buy books, courses, and you can hire people, experts, coaches, whatever they might be, to educate yourself. And through that education, you can make extraordinary changes in your life. You can also do the same by funding a side hustle or even a full-blown business. And in those ways, that's like 5 different things: books, courses, experts, side hustles, business. You could also buy an asset. Like if you want to save money and set that aside, investing in yourself really is about creating a better life for yourself. And so using money in the most creative way that you can do that.
Yeah, because I was thinking about recently, it was about rest and relaxation, or when it comes to, a lot of people call it the R&R, and when it comes to that was self-care. That's what it was. When it comes to self-care, most people think about they just sitting with a glass of wine at a pool or something like that, or just sitting home watching TV. Now, people will call that self. It's like you're really hurting yourself by doing that, because you're not giving yourself that attention. You're not pushing yourself to that next level. And it's almost like I was thinking about it the other day, like how when you think about gravity and when a baby falls, they don't learn how to walk by laying around. They learn how to walk by actually walking.
Yeah.
Like if you want to get awesome with your finances, you need to actually open up your finances and really invest and start doing things for yourself. And when it comes, and that's what I was thinking about as far as investing in yourself, it's like really go through those pain points, like really dive into something that you have no clue over. Just take like 5 minutes. If you can spend an hour on Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media platform, just consuming all this extra content, then take a few 15 minutes or so to dive into something that you never thought about doing.
And one of the greatest things that helped me invest in myself was creating a separate savings account dedicated to investing in myself. Because as I had money set aside in there, it completely changed how I viewed opportunities when I came across an opportunity. So for example, if I see a $250 course, when I have money set, if I've got $1,000 in my wealth account, is what I call my account that I invest in myself with. Nice. Well, now I can look at that opportunity and say, out of this $1,000, is purchasing this $250 course to maybe learn a new skill, is that a good use of my money? And perhaps it is. It's very different though, when you are coming across an opportunity for say $250 for a course, and all you're doing is looking at your single checking account or single savings account, where you've got to pay for your rent, insurance, you've got to pay off debt. You've got, you might have car repairs, your food, like all these essentials. If you are looking at that amount of money and asking yourself, do I really need a course? You're more than likely going to say no. So having a completely separate account can change everything for you.
Wow. See, I didn't even think about it from that mental standpoint of the psychological piece of seeing it as one big bucket versus this is already allotted for me on that side.
It's the same principle when it comes to spending money guilt-free. Like that's the whole thing about guilt-free spending, is having money set aside for guilt-free spending. Because again, when you want, so like you said you live in National Harbor, so you're not far from Six Flags.
Right.
Do you like going to Six Flags over there in Maryland?
I've only been there a couple times.
Okay.
Yeah, but
well,
not really. Yeah.
I kind of like, it's sort of run its course a little bit. All I can really care about is to go on Superman. But that is a ticket there is like $60 or something for a day. And if I'm saying, should I go spend $60 at Six Flags, or should I throw it into my stock market account? Like more times than not, if I'm trying to build wealth, I have to throw it into my savings account or stock, investment account, whatever it might be. However, if I have money set aside for fun purchases, and let's say I've got $1,000 in there. I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'll go spend $60 to go to Six Flags. So it's the same thing for guilt-free spending.
Okay. So you're not feel like you're leaving yourself out for things.
Exactly.
Because I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, well, why you spend so much on going out to eat versus you could be investing that money inside the company. I was like, well, I gotta eat.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna starve myself so I could just put this $20 into the into this investment account.
Right.
Always something.
Mm-hmm.
So but you did mention because we're gonna slide into the third segment, which is talking about the futures. Now you also started we want to take the investing into yourself into this segment because you started talking about earlier offline about your podcast. Can you just tell everybody a little bit about that?
So yeah, I haven't started my own podcast yet. I've just been speaking on different podcasts, nice. But it's just something that a while back I've loved podcasts. I've loved listening to them and also watching them on YouTube. And as I realized that, wow, I've got, I'm already helping people. I could help a whole lot more if I just put myself out there a little bit more. I started reaching out to different folks and saying, hey, this is what I do. This is what I'd love to talk to you about. And, we linked up and now we're having a cool conversation. I got to meet you, someone who's brand new and also doesn't even live that far from me, right outside in the DMV area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to coming out, to reaching out to other people and so forth, you're also talking about when you're having these jiu-jitsu connections. So having those discussions, because you're looking at even with UFC fighters, you talk about the discipline side of the house. Now, did you ever do any mixed martial arts?
Yeah, I trained jiu-jitsu off and on for a little while and then pretty seriously for a couple of years. And that was my sort of introduction into the MMA space.
Okay. Because I was actually thinking about from the discipline standpoint of your mind and body and awareness of where you at in the 3-dimensional space, or some people say a 4-dimension because you're in.
Do you train martial arts? Because the way that you're talking about it sounds like you do.
No, I used to wrestle.
Okay.
And so I usually wrestle with my eyes closed. And that's
yeah.
Understanding where the body is at and where the other person is at and their shift in weight and stuff like that. So I am familiar with most of the movements of the body. Did a little bit of study, not too heavy, but understanding where you are in that space, it's almost like where you are financially in the space that you want to be at. And I just wanted to go into, I know we talked about habits a little bit, but what is it that kind of keep you steady? You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't tilt too far left or too far right.
Yeah. So you're spot on there in saying that you've got to have an awareness of where you are, whether it's your physical space or your financial health or your, whatever it might be. And the way that you do that financially is with something that I call a financial foundation. And so there are these 5 key aspects: your assets, your liabilities, your income, expenses, and goals. And if you have a clear bird's eye view of all of that in a concise spreadsheet or on a few pieces of paper, and you can look at that and update it on really at least a monthly basis, then that is your spatial awareness financially. And then, right, because if let's say you're wrestling and you're, someone's stacking you on your head or something, well, you've got to be aware that you're being stacked on your head before you can think about, all right, well, now if I sort of roll out this way, then I can progress forward. And with your finances, it's the same thing where you've got to be able to understand where you are so that you can then take the next step going forward.
Yeah, you're actually right on with the smack upside the head, because that used to be one of the tactics.
Yeah, that's a pin, right? Getting you, yeah. I wrestled for about half a season in high school.
Oh, so yeah, you know what it is. So.
Yeah.
So where do you actually see yourself within the next, I try to do at least 5 months to 2 years. I don't like the 5-year plan because it's too far out, the way how things are moving. So where do you see yourself?
I like that timeline because I agree. 5 years, what is that saying? You plan and God laughs, right. So 5 years is a little too far out. The next 5 months to 2 years, I would love to connect with more podcast hosts and speak on more podcasts. Like this is I have so much fun doing this and just meeting new people and having these guys. I love talking about business and finance and managing money and blackjack and all this stuff. So this is so fun to be doing this. So I hope to speak on a whole lot more in the next year-ish and help a whole lot more folks. So that's also part of the reason why I'm doing this, is to put myself out there a little bit more, say, hey, if this sounds like, you and you want some help with your finances and what you're working on, then by all means, reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Is there anything that you want to talk about before we get into the next 4 questions, the final 4?
I mean, my big thing, one of the biggest things that got me into financial coaching is just recognizing that there wasn't enough attention put on these aspects of practically managing your money. Mm-hmm. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, phenomenal book, really great in the mindset arena. The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, phenomenal book, great for the baby steps that we talked about. But like when it comes down to it, I just really, it's not so much a new thing, but I just really want to impress upon people that, or offer, not even impress upon them, just offer, hey, if you want to practically manage your money, look at it. It's helpful to look at it in this 3-step process to decide what to do with your money when you receive it. Set up some sort of system where you can ensure that you stick to those decisions, and keep track of where it's going in some sort of efficient and organized fashion. By and large, that means you're not actually tracking your expenses, because that's not sustainable. So it really, just using separate bank accounts is one of the best ways to do that. And if I could leave anyone with anything, it would be that, really.
Nice. Because what you're talking about reminded me of this book called The Power of Habit.
Yep.
Love this book because, like you said, really all you need is just the first 3 chapters of this book. Everything else is just stories. But the cool thing about it is, like you said, it's just breaking down and really understanding everything. Mm-hmm. You're on it. I love this.
I haven't actually read that. That's by Charles Duhigg, but James Clear in Atomic Habits references the Power of Habit a lot in his book. And that, gosh, that's an international bestseller too. But yeah, once I read that, I was like, oh, that makes sense. When you make an action that's too difficult to repeat over and over again, you're not going to do it. And so, I'm trying to I'm trying to stand up and just scream, like, stop tracking your expenses as a long-term financial habit. Use it as a tool to diagnose what's going on. Mm-hmm. In the same way that, I don't know anyone that tracks their food for every single thing that they eat on a consistent basis. Like if you're not feeling well and you're trying to figure out what you're allergic to, sure, track your food, every single thing that you eat. But otherwise, like, you just need to know the basic categories. You need to know how many fats and grams of protein and carbs that you're eating. And like on the finance side of things, you should probably know generally what your fixed recurring expenses are, your needs, your wants, and that's it in terms of spending. But there's really no need to be tracking your expenses long term.
Yeah, there you go with the selfless spending, right? What do you call it?
Oh, guilt-free spending.
Guilt-free spending, yeah. Because once you get there, because that's kind of where I'm at. I was actually tracking heavy when I was getting focusing on where my money was at.
Yep.
So I tracked that for at least 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And once I understood, okay, because I wanted to track through the seasons. And what is reoccurring annually, quarterly, monthly, and then if there's bi-monthly expenses, and then also see what am I paying for my car? Am I paying too much in gas, or can I change my gas or change my food habits? Until I got to a place where I was comfortable. I was like, okay, I found out this solution is good for me. I know how much I need to have in my bank account. I know what my total monthly expenses are. So long as I'm over that, I'm okay financially and just spend whatever. Just as long as I know I have that amount taken care of and it automatically comes out, I'm comfortable. And that's one of those things that I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's perfect, right? It's perfect. Like, tracking expenses is perfect as a diagnostic tool. Once you figure that out, you still, if you're working hard for your money, unless it's literally just coming in and somehow you just have, I don't know. I don't know a scenario where someone's not working particularly hard for their money. You don't need to do backbreaking work in order for you to want to know where your money's going. But generally speaking, people work hard for their money. You want to know where it's going. And so even after you've diagnosed different things and how much is supposed to be going in different places, once you have separate accounts and you use a cash flow tracker to distribute it before you actually move money into those accounts, then you can still see where your money's going without tracking all of your expenses.
Yeah, and a tip for those of you who are listening and is trying to talk about the different deviations, you can actually talk to your employer and actually make sure that your account, your check is actually split up amongst those 3 different accounts to make sure that you're never missing out on those particular things. If you know that it's going to cost you $50 each paycheck, obviously this goes back to tracking again to know how you can actually displace everything. And like, you know that your Hulu bill and your gas, electric, and all that fun stuff come out automatically all this time. So, all right, well then put aside $200 every paycheck to this one account, and then so forth. Yeah.
Did you say that you can actually tell your employer to split up your payments into different accounts?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. You know, when they ask you for your bank account number, they usually have one liner, but you can actually give them more. They only put that one just to kind of get it started.
Interesting.
After that, yeah, you can give them the rest.
Yep.
I think some of them even go as far to put percentages if you wanted to.
Yeah, that can make sense.
Dollar amount, yeah. Yep. Cool. So you ready for the final 4?
Let's do it.
All righty. So question number 1. What does wealth mean to you?
Well, I start with a while ago, I heard that I read the definition that Robert Kiyosaki provides. He quotes Buckminster Fuller and Rich Dad Poor Dad and says that wealth is the amount of time that you can stop working and continue living. That really sets the scene for like wanting to develop passive income. And that's all well and good, but I actually don't think that I've kind of grown a little bit through that now. And so I'm a little bit thinking out loud, but I think wealth is more about how much control you have over your time. And so even if you are actively working for money, as long as it's something that you want to be doing, like, I think that that's okay. I don't think that money has to be coming in passively from rentals or from stock dividends or from, equity in businesses. I don't think it has to be coming in that way in order for you to consider yourself wealthy. I think if you can control your time, and in particular, if you're able to make money really doing something that you enjoy, and that enables you to control your time, then that's wealth.
See, I love this question is because as I've been doing this show, more and more people are starting to say wealth is time, because pre-pandemic, it was all about, money. Now, like, as we're coming out of it and we starting to force ourselves to go back to work, it's more of, well, I want my time now.
Yeah.
I love my time.
Yeah.
Get it back. That's so cool. Question number 2. What is your worst money mistake?
Well, one thing comes to mind, a couple things come to mind. I'll share one of them with you. So I remember did you ever hear about MoviePass?
I remember MoviePass, yeah.
Did you ever have it?
No.
I was driving Uber and Lyft at the time. I had a passenger in my back seat who said that he had this thing called MoviePass, and you could pay $10 a month and go see as many movies as you wanted, or one movie per day, but as many as you wanted throughout the month. And that sounded ridiculous, and it was ridiculous, but I signed up for it and I saw a whole bunch of movies. Right. Well, then I looked in and saw that the parent company, Helios and Mathewson, I don't know, the ticker was like HMNY. And they they were really cheap at the time. It was like I don't know if it was a penny stock, if it was $7 or $8, whatever it was. And I bought a couple shares. I don't buy individual stocks now, but this is, back then I bought some shares. And also I saw it start to drop significantly because people were realizing that this is not a sustainable business model, that they're actually losing millions of dollars a month. Wow. However, I also saw that the CEO was like a former co-founder or co-CEO, I don't know what it was, of Redbox. Which is a massive multi-million-dollar company. And so I said, you know what? This guy, maybe he's got something up his sleeve. Like, he's not going to let this fail. He's been in the business, like he's been around the block. And so when it got real cheap, I spent a couple $1,000s on long call options.
Nice.
And that thing just went bankrupt. So that was the worst money I ever spent.
Jeez. Question number 3. What is your favorite financial book or non-financial book?
Can I give you both? I love books.
Yeah.
Okay. So recently, my favorite financial book has been The Psychology of Money. Loved that book by Morgan Housel. And non-financial book, probably the Gospels of the Bible. If I were to give an actual sort of, I mean, I guess you can buy the Bible, but like the other one that comes to my head, like a more standard sort of book, is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard about that. Can you give like a quick synopsis of that one?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, The Power of Now, the subtitle is A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment. And the premise of the book, I mean, it's amazing. The author, he tells this story about how in his early 30s, he was like suicidal, depressed to a point where, I mean, he actually talks about this point in his life where he was so depressed that he sort of uttered this phrase, "I hate myself. I can't live with myself." And through that, in reflecting on, like, in a moment, he's like, wait a second, what do you mean I can't live with myself? That makes it sound like there are two of me. And surely there's not. Surely I am only one, like, entity. And so he's like, well, which one am I? Am I the I or the sort of, which one am I, essentially? The I or the self that I can't live with? And he just has this realization that, oh, this voice in your head is actually not you. And that to have this constant conversation with this voice in your head means that you are inherently either living in the past or living in the future. If you're thinking about past events or thinking about future events. And it's actually not sane. It's not sane to do that, despite the fact that everyone kind of does it. Like it's normal because most people are doing it, but it's not sane, because it's no different than, you know, the what we point at the weirdo on the metro who's talking to himself aloud. He says it's no different than that. They're doing it aloud. You're doing it in your head. Right. So the point is to sort of read and understand these things about yourself, and to bring you to a point of presence. He says that's kind of the point of the book. Become present.
All right, yeah, I might add that book to my Christmas presents or birthday presents. So
you have to tell me, Anthony. You have to tell me once you read it if you enjoyed it.
Okay, I'll definitely ping you about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, question number 4: what is your favorite dish to make?
Okay, so favorite dish to eat and favorite dish to make are two different things.
You like eat your own cooking?
I'm trying to. I had some really good curry in DC a couple years ago, but it was really hot. It was real good, super spicy, and I don't know. I just never gave too much thought to it, thinking that like, oh, curry is spicy. But I've started eating a lot more rice to try and just eat more, essentially, and that got kind of bland. And so I've been trying. Recently, I had some less spicy curry, and I've been trying to replicate that, and it's been semi-successful to a degree, but also failing semi-significantly at times. So curry is my answer.
Nice.
Curry over rice. Yeah.
Curry over rice.
Yeah.
Nice and simple. That's awesome. So this is the final question: is where could people find more about you?
Yeah, sure. So the easiest way to get a hold of me is to just shoot me a text, 240-630-0568, and either I or my assistant will get back to you. You can reach out to me on Instagram. I think I was just telling you, I finally just got on all of the social sites. So Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, you know, all of these different places. But I'm most active on Instagram right now. And if you want to kind of follow along with my journey as I create less boring content, then I would love to have you come along, because that was not the case a year ago. I can hardly look at that stuff.
Yeah. Finances is always hard to make fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we come in, is to try to understand, like, hey, it's part of everyday life. You got to live with it. I mean, It's just the way the society works.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, Chris, it's been awesome time having you on the show. And I want to thank you so much for taking your time out to come on and actually share your knowledge with all of us here on the About That Wallet podcast. So everybody, again, my name is Anthony. I'm your host, where we will continue to help you build strong financial behaviors. All right, everybody, I'm out.
Take care. Thank you.